Hello and welcome to another random review and how-to. Today we're talking about the Champion Power Equipment generator. Now, this generator we have picked up because we need it for our RV, and essentially for us we just need this 30 amp plug-in here. But once we got this home, we start thinking, what else can we use this for? And I don't have a generator around my house, so having a generator like this that has this much power, this has 4,000 starting watts on gas and 3,600 starting watts on propane. It's dual, so you can either fill it up with gas on top here. It takes 2.9 gallons of gas in the top, and then it hooks up to any size propane that you want. So being able to switch it back and forth between that means that if you have a propane tank and you have the gas, you're gonna get basically double the time. Now, they do run a little bit differently when you use each of them, but just having the versatility of that, being able to kind of pull this around and use it the way you want, not only around your house, but if you're like us and you need it for a camper, we have it for that reason too. So I just want to show you what we got out of the box with this to start. The first thing is this little adapter attachment. This is something that we would use to hook on our hose. We're not actually going to be using this, so I just wanted to show that this came in the box. Another thing that came in, which I think is really cool, is it has a battery charger. I assume that this could be used as jumper cables because of the wattage that's going to be coming out of this, but I haven't been in a situation where I'd want to test that or try that. But it comes onto a cigarette lighter, which actually goes here. It's 12 volts. It plugs in there, so you're able to just plug this in and go right from there. So really neat to have a little battery charger there. It also comes with this cute little USB 2. There's two 2.4 amp USB plugs here. Same idea, goes right into there. Now, you might say, well, what do I need that for? Well, if you're like me and you're out and you're using electricity or power around your house, I constantly need my phone plugged in because it's always going dead, or my wife does. So being able to have something that's going to charge that. Now, if we took this somewhere where we're camping and we're off the grid and we need just extra power around or out or what we're doing, it's nice to know that I have a little adapter. I think it's a convenience thing. I'm glad it came with it. The third thing, fourth thing, probably most vital for us, is going to be our propane hookup, because we do run propane off of our camper, but you can carry around your little 20-gallon tanks wherever you want and use this. So really nice little quick connector here. You just plug this into this port and it snaps open for you, and to get it out, it's just a push in and a pull out. So it's very quick connect, it's very easy to use. One thing I'll show you in use is how this actually is important to running the propane side of things, and especially when you need to turn it off, because once you get it going and you're not sure how to turn it off, this comes into play along with your tank. So that's everything that comes out of the box. Let's talk a little bit about this generator in general. So when you have 4,000 watts or 3,600 watts on propane, how does that work exactly, right? So you have to think about the things that you're plugging into this and how much wattage you're pulling out. So if your electricity goes out of your house and you're trying to think, well, what things can I use with this generator? You really have to add up and do a little math, all the wattage that you're pulling from things that you're gonna plug in, whether it's a chest freezer, a refrigerator, or both. So you wanna make sure that you're getting up to the ampage, or wattage, I'm sorry, that you have out of the generator. So having the ability to run this off gas and have 4,000 watts is gonna give you a lot more energy to be able to run multiple things at once versus just one. So that's the idea behind running this. Now, when it comes to something like our camper, we're able to plug our 30 amp in here, and from what we were able to experience, we were able to run the entire camper just off of 30 amps here. Another thing I really like about this generator is it is quiet. Now, it's still a generator, it's 224 cc, so it's still pounding out a lot of noise, but with the design and the way that it's on this frame, it actually is quieter. They say 50% quieter than the previous generators. Because I haven't had a previous generator, I can't compare it, but just from running it at the house and having it go, the sound is much lower than I would expect out of a generator this size. So if you're gonna use it around the house and you wanna make too much disturbance in your neighborhood, quieter generators are the way to go, and it makes a lot of sense for that. Let's talk about the weight real quick. I will say, it's lighter than I expected, but it's still heavier than I expected. It's coming in at over 100 pounds. It's not the easiest thing to move around. Obviously, I'm a bigger guy, so I could pick this up and carry it around, but I wouldn't expect my wife to be able to do that. It's easy enough just to pick up with two people. One idea you might have is to actually put it on rollers or on some kind of thing that you can roll around that you make yourself. That way it's easier to kind of get around. As long as you're on hard surfaces, that would be convenient. So let's get into talking a little bit more about some of the features of this control panel right here. So here we are looking at our control panel. So we're just gonna start left to right here and kind of explain what everything is. This is gonna be your choke. So you're gonna use your choke in 3 different ways pretty much. So if you're running on gas, you're gonna pull your choke all the way out when you start it. And when you're starting it, this is your lever to pull, but you're gonna actually be able to prime this by pulling this 5 times. So it might start the first time around. I've seen that happen myself, that I've pulled it and it just goes. But if you wanted to prime it, you can just pull this out and it'll actually prime up the entire system. But for gas loading, so we're using the gas on top, we're gonna pull it all the way out. If you're gonna do propane, you're gonna put it into half and you're gonna feel it kind of stop and click in. So that's gonna be our propane. And then when you want it to run, push it in all the way. So when we go to when we're actually using, so if we're using propane versus gas, there's this nice little switch here. So when this is up, you can see it's pushing down this little middle piece. That's telling us that we're running strictly off of gas. When we want to run propane, we turn this to the left and this little knob comes up and then we're able to go off propane. So you can't run both at the same time, obviously, but that's just showing you how those two parts work. This little button here is for your on-off switch, but there's a note that I would put in here that you should make sure you know that when you're running on propane, this off switch doesn't actually work to turn it off. So you can keep it on to run it, but you can't actually turn it off that way. And I'm gonna show you in a minute here that when you're running propane, the best way to turn it off is actually just to, and it's the only way to turn it off, is to just close off your propane tank, and then this will eventually run out and turn itself down. So that's how you actually turn it off. If you're running on gas, this off switch works. Here's your eco button. Again, your eco is gonna actually kind of bring the engine back when you're not pulling as much energy. It's gonna quiet it down, but it's also not gonna draw as much energy as it would if you have it just running full cycle. Down here, this is our 12 volt DC 8 amp automotive plug, the cigarette lighter as I like to call it. This is gonna give you 12 volts of DC and 8 amp electric loads. So that's what we get out of here. Down here is your actual ground wire. So this is a ground terminal. You're gonna wanna make sure that you work with an electrician unless you know what you're doing in that area to actually ground this thing out. One note I'm going to make about this is when we're using it for the camper, we actually have a surge protector that we plug in to all of our electrical hookups. So when we got this, I plugged it in here and the surge protector gives me an error that lets me know there's an open ground. And the reason that is because a lot of generators aren't actually grounded off, even though there's a ground wire in the back, which I'm going to show you. The surge protector is going to read that it's not grounded. So I went online, I read about this, and it's actually okay to run because you have to realize you're not getting more than 30 amps out of this. It's just not able to produce more energy than that. The reason we use surge protectors at campgrounds is because the electricity there is never really the best, and you don't want to be hooked up somewhere where there's a lot of 50 amp service going through and then all of a sudden you get a surge that comes through. That's why the surge guard's being used there. But here we know we're not going to draw more than that, and we know that that's exactly what my camper is using. So I just plug right into this when I'm using my camper. Now they do make, there are some how-to videos online of showing you how you can actually ground one of these by making like a plug that goes in here that actually grounds itself. And there's other ways for you to actually attach into this and ground it into the ground, but I didn't get into any of that because I just honestly didn't want to be bothered, and just reading that it was okay to do it this way is what I did. So here you have your Paralinks, and these are going to be used for parallel operations. So there's a parallel kit that's sold separately. I don't have one, but if you wanted to actually link this together with other generators, this is where you would do that. So you actually plug your wires into there, and then you can hook these things together. So you kind of daisy chain them together, if you will. If you've ever worked with speakers, that's the kind of term that we use. These here are your circuit breakers. This protects the generator against electrical overloads. That's another peace of mind that I had about the 30 amp service, is knowing that there's breakers within here and they're gonna trip if necessary. Here is your indicator light. So you have an output indicator light. This remains on green the entire time it's on. When the generator goes off, it'll turn off. This is your overload indicator light. When the generator is on, it's overloaded and the power to receptacles is cut, this light will go off. It also blinks when your generator is shutting down. So you'll see that in operation. And then down here you have your oil warning. So when your engine's on, this will shut down and not run. You can check here, this is gonna give your oil level light there. So here we have our 20 volt AC 30 amp RV. This is a power electric supply operation of 120 volts AC 30 amp. It's single phase 60 hertz electrical loads. And then here you have two 120 volt AC 20 amp may be used to supply electrical power for operation of 120 volt AC 20 amps single phase 60 hertz electrical loads. So you have your plugs there, 3 different ones. I've been able to use my 30 amp and then have some other things, small things, fans, a few tools here plugged into this, and it handled all of it beautifully. If we move over here, you can see this is where your oil goes in. So this is just a quick turn knob. Always want to tighten this by hand. If you pull this out, you'll see that I've already actually filled this, and it has your little full indicator there. Here's a look at your left side of the generator. Just once again telling you it's 4,000 starting watts, 3,500 running watts on gas, 3,600 starting watts, 3,150 running watts on propane. The other nice thing, again, it's the simple things that I like. This shows you your steps for starting. Here it says always check your oil, and then turn on your gas or your propane. Make sure you have your propane open. And then go ahead and turn on your power, pull your choke, start it, push your choke in, and then plug in. So the key here, and this is something that's in the manual, is you want to make sure that once you get a generator like this going, you let it idle for a little bit. I like to wait 2 to 3 minutes. I let it idle. That's actually building up energy inside. And then once you have that, you can plug in. The other thing you want to make sure is before you shut it down, that you unplug everything. So unplug everything, I let it idle again, then I power down. But if I have my propane going, I again have to make sure that I turn it off. That's the only way to power it down with propane. On the back side here, you can see all of your back connections. This is where your exhaust is coming out of. This whole area gets very hot, something you want to avoid touching. Here's your ground wire in the back, but again, this is not going to ground out the outlets if you're using a surge protector. So just one of those things to note, that it doesn't actually do it from there. Here's your air filter, and it's easy access here. This just pulls off, and then inside of this, there's a little foam filter that pops out. I'm not going to pull it out, but it is super easy to get to. And then you can kind of see where everything else is inside of that. And then this is just a look at the right view. So I'm going to show you right now is how to actually operate this on propane. Something that I stated is we're not going to be using gas in this right away just because of the RV use of it. We have plenty of propane tanks around the house, and I'd rather just use this energy, especially because it lasts longer. So this is what our primary use for this is going to be. You have that option to throw into 3 gallons of gas if you want, but for now, we're just going to run it on propane. We don't want to spill the gas on the top and just have that smell, especially if we're using this around the RV. So I'm going to show you how easy it is to hook this up. I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then walk you through the steps from that. And then I'm not going to try to explain everything here, but I'm going to point out a few things while I'm going. The first is going to be that the on-off switch does not work during the propane use. You keep it on, but if you turn it off, nothing happens. And then the eco mode, this button here, when I flip that, you're going to hear this actually rev down. So we're going to start by pulling our choke out halfway and then cranking up. Easy enough. I'm going to go ahead and just screw on my propane. Make sure I got that in the right direction for me. Nice and tight there. My propane is currently closed. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to pop this piece in. It's a quick connect. I'm going to open up my propane. I got the choke pulled to halfway. Now, if it doesn't start up right away, all it's doing is priming it. So every time you pull this, you're priming the engine, either if you're on gas or on propane. So something to keep in mind there. Once it gets going, you're going to see this green light kicks on to okay. Then we'd be able to run any power that we needed off of here. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a pull. Priming. Starting. I'm going to go ahead and turn on the eco mode. You can see how quiet it is. It's one of the really nice attributes of this. This is on the eco. If we were to plug a lot of stuff in here and pour more wattage from it and amps, it's going to rev itself back up while in eco mode. And then when it's not using the energy, it scales back. So now to turn it off, all we have to do is screw down the propane. So you saw the red light blink there for a couple times. That's as easy as this is to use. I can't say enough about it. Its size is very small. It's not the easiest to pick up and move around, but that's something, again, 2 people can easily move this around. 1 person, not so much. This generator has a lot of power to it. There's a lot of things I like about this, especially the quietness. I love the ability to be able to go from gas to propane. If you're looking for a generator around your house, if you're looking for your RV, something to just keep there in case your power goes out, this generator is a great little generator to do it. I'm going to put all of the specs down below about this generator, so anything that you might have questions about, leave it in the descriptions, and I will constantly be looking at it to answer anything that you might have. There's also a link down below to Amazon to purchase this, so if you purchase from that link, it helps us, it helps you. I want to thank you for watching our channel. This is Random Reviews and How-Tos. There's a lot more where this came from on our channel, so go check that out. If you really like what you're looking at, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.